All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Look, APIs are literally the lifeblood of modern tech, right? They connect our apps, our data, our services, pretty much everything. But because they're so absolutely critical, they're also prime targets for attackers. That's exactly why today we aren't just looking at some simple list of tips, we're actually building a defense-in-depth fortress to completely lock down your architecture. Now, what we're tackling here is a pretty dense 12-point technical checklist, but it maps out perfectly into a cohesive blueprint for modern API security. It covers the whole shebang, from user authentication at the perimeter all the way to logging and monitoring deep inside the architecture. It's a really comprehensive guide pulled straight from enterprise best practices and the OWASP Top 10, and we're going to unpack it step by step. To make this super practical, we're grouping these 12 practices into 4 main fortress layers: identity and access control, protecting core data, securing the boundaries, and operations and governance. And stick around, because we're capping it all off with an ultimate interview checklist. Okay, layer 1, identity and access control. Basically, who are you and what are you actually allowed to do? So for rock-solid authentication, you definitely can't rely on outdated methods or exposed credentials directly to your apps. The absolute gold standard right now, that's OAuth 2.1 Authorization Code Flow with PKCE, running alongside OpenID Connect. You're going to want to issue short-lived JWTs, we're talking 5 to 15 minutes max, and strictly enforce MFA for any kind of privileged action. And honestly, don't reinvent the wheel here. Just leverage battle-tested tools like Keycloak, Auth0, Okta, or AWS Cognito. But here's the kicker. Just knowing who the user is, not enough. Actually, most API breaches happen through BOLA, Broken Object Level Authorization. This is when someone logs in but then manipulates an ID in the API URL to suddenly view someone else's private data. Crazy, right? To stop this dead in its tracks, you must enforce fine-grained authorization checks on literally every single request. Never ever trust IDs coming from the client. Always validate resource ownership and user roles on the server. Naturally, your login, sign-up, password reset, and checkout flows are massive magnets for automated bots and credential stuffing. So we've got to add some friction there. We protect these highly sensitive flows by layering in defenses. Add CAPTCHA, trigger step-up MFA when behavior looks a bit sketchy, apply velocity rules to shut down rapid-fire requests, and of course, implement item potency keys so a sensitive action, like a payment, isn't accidentally processed twice. Moving deeper in, let's hit layer 2, protecting core data. This is all about keeping your secrets and internal logic completely safe. You see this next issue a lot. A massive mistake developers make is overexposing data by just blasting an entire internal database entity back to the client. Suddenly, you're leaking social security numbers and admin roles. That's a huge no-go. Instead, always apply least privilege scopes. Use DTOs, data transfer objects, to filter the response so the client gets exactly what it needs, just the ID and the name, and nothing more. And just like we protect user data, system data needs that exact same fierce protection. It kind of goes without saying, but never hardcode secrets like your JWT signing keys, API keys, or database passwords in your source code. Because if that leaks, game over. Your entire system is compromised. Those secrets absolutely must live inside a centralized manager. Think HashiCorp Vault or AWS Secrets Manager for automatic rotation and strict auditing. Also, a great rule of thumb to protect your core logic: assume every single incoming request is totally untrusted. Before a payload even touches your business logic, strictly validate it. Use tools like OpenAPI or JSON schemas to just flat out reject malformed inputs, unknown fields, or oversized payloads. Catching these at the schema or framework level is your absolute primary defense against devastating injection attacks. All right, stepping out a bit, we've got layer 3, securing the boundaries. We're talking traffic control and encryption. The golden rule here is simple. Encrypt every single hop. We can't trust internal traffic any more than we trust external traffic. So client traffic to the API gateway, that needs modern HTTPS with TLS 1.3. But inside the network, between the gateway and your microservices, you've got to use mutual TLS, MTLS, managed by a service mesh like Istio or Envoy. And right at that API gateway, using something like Kong or Nginx, we establish a really hard defensive perimeter. You've got to actively rate limit traffic and cap resource consumption to block DOS and brute force attacks. Enforce strict limits on request per second, define your max payload sizes, and definitely utilize circuit breakers. That way, if an API gets hammered with traffic, the gateway takes the hit, and it completely prevents your backend servers from crashing. Now, here's something a lot of people miss. Outbound APIs are a huge blind spot. If your app fetches data from third-party URLs, it can be abused through server-side request forgery, SSRF, where attackers literally trick your server into making malicious internal requests. To shut that down, tightly restrict your outbound calls. Use an egress gateway with tightly controlled allow lists, ensuring your server is only talking to approved partners. Finally, the watchtower of our fortress. Layer 4, operations and governance. Let's talk visibility, monitoring, and configurations. First things first, misconfigurations are an incredibly common, devastating risk. If you leave debug mode on in production, you are literally handing attackers a roadmap to your vulnerabilities by exposing server versions and full-stack traces. You need to switch to a deny by default posture. Turn debug modes off, implement strict course rules, enforce secure headers, and make sure any errors the client sees are completely generic. Next up, you just can't protect what you aren't tracking. Maintaining a centralized API inventory using tools like Swagger or Backstage is absolutely crucial to mitigate the risk of those forgotten shadow APIs or old, deprecated endpoints. Plus, security isn't real without continuous monitoring. You need to forward structured audit logs straight into a SIM system like Elk, Splunk, or Datadog for real-time threat detection. But hey, there's a massive red flag regarding logging. While we absolutely want alerts for things like unauthorized spikes or suspicious activity, it is a non-negotiable rule that you never log sensitive secrets. I mean it. No passwords, no JWTs, no API keys in your logging systems. If you do, you've just created a brand new, highly centralized vulnerability.
Okay, to wrap this all up, the ultimate interview checklist. This is your 30-second mastery summary.
Bringing our complete architectural blueprint back to mind, you can really see how all these pieces fit together seamlessly. From issuing short-lived tokens at the perimeter to vault secret management in the center, all the way down to strict API registries and CM alerts. It's a single, holistic system integrating strong authentication, strict input validation, and continuous monitoring. Take a mental screenshot of this checklist right here. Whether you're building a brand new application from scratch or auditing an existing one, these are the essential, non-negotiable boxes you need to check. This is your master framework for defense in depth. And hey, if you're stepping into a system design interview anytime soon, being able to confidently drop a summary like this is your golden ticket. It demonstrates a truly senior-level, holistic security mindset. It shows you understand that API security isn't just slapping on a single feature, it's engineering an entire architecture. And that brings us to the most important question for your own applications today. You've got the blueprint, you know the best practices, so take a hard look at your architecture, review the endpoints you have running right now, and ask yourself, which layer of your fortress is failing today?